Hello, my name is Brandon Clayton, the Algebra Guy. As you see on your screen, today's lesson will cover solving equation using all the operations, adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. So if you're struggling in any way doing that, stay tuned and struggle no more. So here are the questions we want to answer. Solve equations using the four properties of equality. Solve equations that need to be simplified. And I want you to know how to translate an equation, when you're given a word problem, and then solve it and translate it in application problems. So let's jump into it. Just a reminder here, we've already covered these before, but I'll briefly remind you of the property of equality rules for subtraction, addition, and multiplying and dividing. So for subtraction and addition, as you can see here, it's really simple. Given A equals B, let's say 3 equals 3. If you're going to the subtraction property says that if you subtract the same number on both sides, these are still going to be equal. And the addition problem says the same thing with addition. So if you have these two be equal, let's say these are 4 and 4. It doesn't matter what numbers. So you have A and B, right? But if you add the same thing on both sides, the equation is still going to be equal. So that information allows us to simplify or solve an equation. So that's what we'll do here moving forward. So let's do that. Using that information, let's solve it. So I want to get x by itself. Ultimately, I want to know what x equals. In order to do that, I subtract the 11 because there's 11 being added here. So that goes away. Now I just have x. But I can't do it just on the one side. The equality probably says since these are equal, I need to do the same thing on this side. So this becomes negative. I bring down my -3, but I also have to subtract my -11. So that gives me x equals, what's -3 minus 11? That'd be a -14. All right, so same thing here. I want m equals something, but I have an m minus 4. So to get rid of this 4, if I added 4 over here, then it'll be gone. It's 0. Well, I have to add 4 on both sides to keep this equal. So now that leaves me with m equals -4 plus 1, which is a -1. And that's how you solve them. All right, what about these guys here? So I want to get m by itself. Even though it's a fraction, I'm still going to do the same principle. I'm going to add 3/8 on this side because 3/8 minus 3/8 is 0. So now I just have an n equals, well, I can't just do it on that side because I have to do the same thing on both sides to keep this equal. So on this side now, what do I have? I end up with 1/2 plus 3/8. What is 1/2 plus 3/8? Well, in order to add these, if you remember the rules for adding fractions, the denominator has to be the same. So go back to our previous lesson if you struggle with that at all. So we need to change this 1/2 so that it has a denominator of 8. Well, that means I'm multiplying the bottom by 4 and the top by 4. So I learned that 4/8 is the same thing as 1/2. So now I can do 4/8 plus 3/8 to give me 7/8. So I now know that 1/2 plus 3/8 equals 7/8. All right, so I want to get rid of -33.7, so I'm going to add 3.7 on both sides. Add 3.7. And when I do that here, this goes to 0. That leaves me with just a equals 4.3 plus 3.7. That is 8 even. All right, so let's solve some that need to be simplified first. Now, I want to encourage you, as usual, please work these problems. Pause the video, work them before I work them to test yourself, and you'll learn a lot better that way. All right, so ultimately, when we say solve, we're trying to find the value of x such that, well, the value of x, right? So x equals something. We want just x by itself, not 2x, not 3x, but x. So first thing I can do here is I can combine like terms. I notice I have a -2x and a 3x. Well, what's 3 minus 2? Well, that just gives me x. I like to cross these out so I don't get confused. And notice I did keep that minus with that 2x because that is the same thing as a -2x. Also notice I have two like terms here. negative 7 minus 4, or negative 7 and negative 4, which is the same thing as negative 7 plus negative 4. That leaves me with negative 11 equals 1. So all I did was simplify everything on this left side. I still need to get this x by itself, so I'm going to add 11 on both sides. That leaves me x equals 12. All right, now this one telling us to distribute. So the first thing I'm going to do is parentheses. I'm going to deal with this distributing. Thanks to PEMDAS, remembering that. So I'm going to go 3 times n is 3n. 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. And bring down my negative 2n equals negative 3. I do notice that I can combine my like terms, negative 2n and negative 12. Is that a negative? Oh, I'm sorry. That's not right. I meant to say 3n and a negative 2n. There we go. So what's 3 minus 2? That's just n. And I'm left with a negative 12 equals negative 3. I'm going to add 3. Use the addition property of equality on both sides. That leaves me with n equals negative 3 plus 12, which is 9. Okay, solving this one is 3. We're going to distribute first. 2 times 3k is 6k. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. I'm left with a negative 5k equals negative 2 minus 7 is negative 9. I notice I can combine some like terms on this side, a negative 5k and a 6k. Doing so is 6 minus 5, which is k. I'm left with minus 2 equals negative 9. All right, I want to get my k by itself, so I'm adding 2 on both sides. K equals negative 7. And the reason I added 2 because there was minus 2, so I want it to go to 0. All right, what about translation here? So how do you translate an equal sign? So some of the ways you're going to see equal sign spoken of in a problem is using the word is equal to, is the same as, the result of, gives, was, will be. These little helping verbs, I think they call them back in school, are what's going to help us identify where the equal sign is. So let's take this first one. 5 more than x is equal to, well, that's kind of obvious, 26. So 5 more than x. So we got x already, but we got 5 more than x is equal to 26. So I subtract 5 on both sides to get this. X equals 21. And the difference of 5p, well, difference is telling us of subtraction. 5p and 4p is 23. 5 minus 4 is just p, so p equals 23. The Robles family has 2 dogs, Buster and Chandler. Together they weigh 71 pounds. Chandler weighs 28 pounds. How much does Buster weigh? Well, we know that together they weigh 71. So let's just say x plus y equals 71. And how much does Buster weigh? So Buster is going to be one of these dogs. So let's say it was y. So we got x plus 28 pounds equals 71 pounds. So in this case, we will subtract 28 and get x equals whatever that number is, which looks like it's going to be, round this up to 30. That'd be 41, 43. We'll do the math here just to be sure. 28, 6, 1, 3, 6 minus 2 is 4. 43. All right, next problem. We got a car. Shayla paid $24,575 for her new car. This was $875 less than the sticker price. What was the sticker price? So she paid this. What was this, which was less than the sticker price? So it was some price minus $875 gave her this great deal. Or at least maybe she thought it was a great deal. I don't think it's that great. So in order to solve this, we're going to add 875 on both sides. X is going to equal 24,000. All this added together. So that's 10, 14, 15, 18, 13, 14, 5, 2. 25,450 was her original sticker price. All right, what about equality using division and multiplication? So just a reminder, this is the rules for it. For dividing, if you divide by the same number, it's going to be equal as long as it's not equal to 0. The denominator is 0. And the same thing for multiplication. As long as you multiply by the same number, C on this side, C on that side, it's the same thing. Now, in this case, these are already been multiplied 4 times x. So do the inverse. I want to divide by 4. And that gives me x equals -7. This can be a little bit tricky, but what I would do here is get my a by itself by multiplying by -7. Multiplying both sides by -7. And the top goes away, the bottom goes away. We got a equals 42 times -7. And I'd rather use my calculator just to make sure I did this right. 42 times 7, 294. Should it be negative or positive? I'm hoping you're saying positive because we got negative times a negative. So great job. Solve equations that need to be simplified again. So let's combine some like terms here. 8x, 9x, and -5x are all like terms, so we can't combine there, and they're on the same side of the equal sign. That's another point. If sometimes when you have numbers on two different sides, you can't combine them. There's other ways you need to figure that out, as we'll see in our next lesson. So let's add all this up. 8, 9, 17. 17 minus 5 is 12x. And this is -3 plus 15, which is 12. All right, so here we can combine these terms. 11 minus 20 is going to be a -9. Combine these like terms. 17 minus 8 is 9. 9 minus 6 is 3. So I ended up with 3y. And these are equal. I want to get the y by itself, so I'm going to divide by 3. Divide by 3. Now y equals 3. All right, first again, we're going to distribute here. -3n plus 6 minus 6 equals 21. Combine your like terms. 6 and minus 6 go to 0. So I'm left with -3n equals 21. Divide by -3n. N equals -7. And that does it. Did we answer everything? We solved using all operations, even the ones that need to be simplified, and we translated the equation as needed. So that did it for us. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. I'm Clayton, the Algebra Guy, and I will see you next lesson.